All right, we are now live. I'm talking with TokenGuy all about Meteora and his strategy because he's very good at it, far better than I am, and it's best that we use people that are really good in their craft. So we're gonna give it like 10 seconds or so just so everyone can jump into this live stream. But in the meantime, TokenGuy, thanks for coming on. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. I appreciate you having me on. And yeah, I'm excited to be able to talk about this with the audience.
Awesome. Well, we've been live for far more than 10 seconds, so let's just kind of dive in. Particular reason why I want TokenGuy is he's got a challenge from $1,000 trying to get to $1 million, and it's already hit $15,000, and it hasn't even been very long. And let's try and do it in this format where we can ask lots of questions, get all the alpha, find out how he does it, and then we can ask more questions as he kind of shows us through some things. So
sounds good.
So firstly, for anybody that doesn't know you, like who are you? What have you done in the space before you become a fantastic Meteora DLMM genius?
I don't know about that title. I've done a lot. I mean, I've been here for in the space of 3 years now. In November, it'll be 3 years. So pretty long time. I started off just doing basic trading and stuff like that. Just buying simple stuff. I started with NFTs. Got burnt pretty hard on a lot of those, but I remember like early 2021 was pretty big. And so basically I just was in the space for a long time. I kind of helped a few projects here and there, just kind of startup stuff, just trying to get more involved in the space over time. And then I launched a project, I guess over a year and a half ago now. It'll be 2 years in like coming up in February, called Liquid Capital, that did pretty well. We did AMMs with NFTs, but obviously NFT volume died down a lot. And so we started to lose money off of that. So we had to shift our strategy. And so I was the founder of that. I don't currently manage the money anymore. There's someone else who does that, but I am still involved in it. And then I have a PFP project that went along with that called Mateys that we still kind of mess around with. But I've done a lot of different stuff from CLMMing to AMMs with Hate Swap, with Tensor. I did some stuff. I did AMMs on Magic Eden as well. So I've done a lot of different stuff in the financial area. I messed around a lot with Camino, things like that. So yeah, just kind of been involved, been in a bunch of NFT projects, lost a lot of money, made a lot of money. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I like the pivot. It's definitely, anyone that can work out DLMMs and Meteor in particular, I think it would be pretty profitable. But is it okay if I share your screen now and you can kind of just do a very quick basic walkthrough for anyone that hasn't used Meteora? I personally say this, and I don't mean it in any negative way, but like Meteora is kind of intermediate to advanced. It's not as easy as Camino. It's not as easy as many strategies. And I feel like you kind of have to do it full time. But I could be wrong. You might be quite successful with, you may have a certain amount of hours you need to spend on it each day. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's definitely a medium to advanced complexity. I think that there's certain ways people can get in and start, which is much easier. And we can actually talk about that. I do believe that there's a few different options to help out, but I think it can be difficult to get in, especially if you've never done anything dealing with liquidity pools or even like CLMMs before, like with Orca and things like that. They've been around a long time. And so I think like if you've already done that, then it is easier to move into this because this is just slightly different than that. But if you've never done anything like that and you've mostly just messed with NFTs or you've been brand new to the space, I think it could be difficult to get in. There are a lot of great Discords like the one that I'm in that are very helpful. People are willing to help and talk and answer questions. And we even do live recordings either through Discord or on Twitter almost every day of the week, not every day, but most days of the week where people can learn. And so, yeah, I agree. There are some good tools. And then, like I said, good kind of strategies you can do if you are a beginner. One of those tools is like an automated system like HawkFi. And so HawkFi actually uses Meteora's API and everything like that. And basically they tie in. And so you can actually farm Meteora points and HawkFi points and they automate it. And so they'll close out your pool if you've lost too much or if you've made a certain amount and you want to close out and different things like that. So that's one thing that's really useful. And then the other one I would say is starting off with not necessarily trading meme coins, but trading larger cap coins like Jupe, or even like Sol USDC or JLP USDC. And the earnings on these are less, but they can really be less risky and allow you to kind of dip your toes into it before you were to jump into something that's maybe a little more risky and harder to manage. But for me, I do it pretty much full time. I do it at least 4 hours a day, if not 6 hours a day, or even more sometimes, depending if I get on at night as well. I try to take off on the weekends. And so on the weekends, I'll just put in like a Sol USDC pool and run it. Even though it earns less, it's still earning a good amount. And usually with those, I mean, we'll see anywhere as low as 0.3 all the way up to 1% per day, which even if you just do that, you're earning 15 to 30% a month, which is really, really good. So yeah, there's a lot of good options to be able to kind of get started for sure.
Cool. Well, can you show us your portfolio currently in this wallet? Is that okay?
Yeah, I think I only have one token open right now. That's Sol Lucy. This is a lower cap coin. But yeah, this is the only one that we have right now. So I do have a bunch that I've kind of been getting in and out of recently, depending on what the market's doing. But yeah, so this is the only one that I have right now. Is there anything specific around my portfolio you wanted to see, like just this coin or?
Well, I guess, so I understand, you know, someone that wants to start off, maybe they should start with a Sol USDC pool, and they can watch my other Meteora video on that because it's far more simple. But
Yeah.
I think the vast majority of people, they firstly, they should know that you live stream, and we'll find out the schedule later. But also, they're going to be more keen on the idea of that $1,000 turning into $1 million, as opposed to growing that that $1,000, growing it by 0.3 to 1% per day.
Yeah, for sure.
So what, like, you've made some money on some trades or some DLMMs and lost on others. What would you do you have a bit of a checklist on what to look for to try and avoid it being rugged, you know, with the liquidity just being destroyed before you jump into a pool?
Yeah.
So you jumped into GOAT as an example. You jumped into GOAT. I'm not sure when, but maybe you can use that as a bit of your example of how you're working out if a pool even looks hot to you.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll open up a few of these. So like I use Bird Eye, you can use Dex Screener. People use different stuff. But essentially I will scan and it's nice to be in a Discord like the one that I'm in, Fee Printers, because there's a lot of people that are talking about different coins. And so sometimes they catch one whenever I'm not. And so it's nice to be in a community. I think a lot of people know this when trading meme coins, right? You're able to kind of get in stuff early. People will say, you know, you kind of get an idea of the sentiment of it and what's kind of going on. And so, I think that that's important. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just scan through. These are some larger cap ones, but like even like Lucy is somewhat of a newer one. Pop Goat is somewhat of a newer one. These are lower cap, 3.5 mil and like 7.5 mil market cap coins compared to like Mudang, which is 200,000, or even Goat, which is 600,000. And so there's different things that I look for, but definitely some of the first things you want to do is, you know, depending on where you hear about this coin, you obviously want to check them out on Twitter. You want to get a good idea of what they're talking about, their narrative, how many people are following them, things like that. You want to make sure that the security, it's mintable and mutable, are both on no. I like to look at the top 10 holders and make sure it's 20% or less. And again, these aren't like the 20% or less isn't like, you know, rule of law, but it needs to be close to that so that, you know, you're not worried about somebody who's farming you or about to dump on you or something like that.
Do you think we could do one? Maybe GOAT wasn't the best example.
Yeah.
Do you reckon we could do one live? Like maybe there's one of the printers and you could just say, all right, this is what, and then you could decide if you think it's good or not.
Yeah. Let me see. Let me see what people are putting out here. So there's a few different ones. I probably have some people in there that are watching, but like Lucy is one that we looked at recently, right? So I can just do it with this one because this is the one that I currently have a pool in anyway. And so this is one that I looked at. And usually what I do is I draw lines here. So I do a horizontal line. And basically what I'm looking at is the either all-time high or just what we call a local high, which this happens to be both right here. I look at how much volume there is. And so you can see 24-hour volume is 31 mil, which is pretty good. But I like to look when I'm DLMMing at the short term. And so I'd go here to the 30 mil, right? And so this is 1.6 mil, which is really, really good. My minimum volume for wanting to DLMM a pool is 500K on the 30-minute volume. And the reason why is because volume is important for DLMing, because the more volume, the more buys and sells, the more you're going to capture those buys and sells when you're DLMing and earn more fees. And so it also helps with reducing risk, because if I'm in a token like this, that's 7.5 million market cap or 8 million, and I get into it and I'm worried about it dipping pretty hard. When you DLMM, you're actually collecting fees as the price goes up and down. And so if you were to just buy and sell it, let's say you buy it at 8 million market cap and then it drops to 7 or 6 mil. Well, you're just down. There is no in between. You just lost, right? And so you'd have to choose, okay, I'm going to hold it and hope it comes back up, or you sell it. And so similarly with DLMM, you buy it at 8 million. If it kind of moves up and down as it's going down, it gets down to 6 million. Well, you've now lost out, except now you've collected fees along the way. And so even though you are down, you're down less than you would have been, because you have fees that whenever you close out that pull and sell, you've collected. And so it does the same on the way up, right? Because you're kind of DCAing or dollar cost averaging, buying up. And so you have less potential to earn on the high side, right? So with a DLMM, I'm never going to just 2 or 3 or 4 or 5x a coin, right? Because I don't have that wide of a range on my DLMM. And if it pumps up that high, I'm usually closing out and I would have made 20, 30 or 40% if it's pumping that much, right? And so it does reduce the upside, but it also reduces the downside. And so what I'm looking to do is try to get more wins and collect more fees to earn than my losses over time. And that's how well I do. So we'll look at Lucy here. This is, again, roughly just under 8 million market cap. I would look at this coin. I'd say, okay, the top 10 holders is 13%, which is actually a really, really good number. That means this is like much more organic than many others. Many of the other ones I see are close to 20%, sometimes 15, sometimes a little higher than 20, but 13% is actually really good. That shows that it's really, really well spread out. And then I look at, it is mintable, mutable. And then I look at the volume. It's at 1.6 million, which if you look at something like GOAT, the 30-minute volume is 2.73 million. But this is a 600,000 market cap coin. Lucy is only 8 million, and it's doing half of the volume that GOAT is. So this is a lot of volume. And so if you come over to a pool, which I'll start like this, I'll say, okay, this is a lot of volume. I'm going to read the little narrative here. I'm going to go check out Twitter. And so
you're normally getting these kind of calls from the fee printers Discord, right?
Yeah, either from there or I'll find them on Twitter. So I scroll through Twitter and stuff like that. So I'll find them myself, or I look, there's a Discover channel on that Discord that shows it. And so I'll click on this.
Anybody can join fee printers?
Yeah, it's completely open. And I can link it, or I can link their the Twitter, so that we can get people access to the Discord invite, because it's on the Twitter. And people can access it that way. But yeah, so I click on this one, for instance, and I look at it, and the Vatican has unveiled the official mascot of the Holy Year of 2025, Lucy, Italian for light. And so this is, like, to me, a pretty funny, like, cool narrative. And so I check it out. I'm like, okay, cool. We look at, we try to find the actual, if they've created a Twitter, we'll check that out. So I do that, right? I look at Twitter, I come back looking at the volume. I'm actually going to close this pull out live here. And it's because it's doing well. And you can see, based on where it's at, you can see that I've collected 2 SOL as well as about 2 SOL worth of Lucy. And it's about at the middle point of where I started. And so I either want to sell at the middle point or higher if possible, because that means that I've collected fees and I'm selling it for what I entered for, or if it's higher, I'm actually selling it for more. So the TVL number will be higher than what I entered for, and I've earned fees along the way. And so I'll give an example of this pool once I close this out. So the liquidity is removed. I'll come here, and we'll come back to this. I just want to get this closed out.
Yeah, of course.
And people can see it live. So I'll come here to Jupiter.
I didn't even know about fee printers. So that's already that's just cool. Alpha, done. End of stream.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a great community. And like I said, I'm heavily involved, and we're really involved in there. They actually launched a small NFT collection to be able to pull money together to do it for themselves. So the Discord can do it. That way people who maybe weren't as experienced want to be able to capitalize on that. So cool. So we got out. You can see the reason I got out was because Lucy was testing the top of its range, and it could go higher from here. and that's okay. I don't FOMO about that. But Lucy was testing at the top of the range. It didn't look like there was going to be a big breakout. And so for me, I don't want to sell when it's coming down. I want to sell it when it's at the top. And so that's what I did. And then what I'll do is I'll come to my wallet and I'll go to the transactions here and I'll go to app interaction, view on SolScan. This should be the right one.
We can't see it, but that's okay.
You can see SolScan, right?
Yep. We just can't see your wallet. Like you're sharing just your browser, but that's
okay.
We can see SolScan, and that's enough, so that's fine.
Yeah. So basically, I just pulled up the transaction from my Phantom wallet, and you can see this is the remove liquidity from Meteora, and then you can come to Metlex here. I'm going to refresh it. So metlex.io. It's a great site if you're using Meteora. It'll tell you all about like a lot of information that you need. You can go to P&L. You can enter it in here. And it'll actually tell you how much money you made, both off the fees and the total liquidity. So it'll include any impermanent loss in there as well. And so you can see right here, I had this pool open for 51 minutes. I had $10,700 in it, which you can see in the bottom left. And so I earned 8% off of that. And so you can see the total amount I deposited was $10,724, and I withdrew about the same amount. I technically made a little bit off of the $50 off of the actual total funds, but I made most of it off the fees. I made $808 off the fees. And so you can see here, that's an 8% return on $10,700 in less than an hour. If I would have been able to catch this on the higher side, which if you can see here, Lucy's actually breaking out. And so if I would have waited to sell a little higher, obviously I would make even more money, maybe closer to 10%. And there's times where we catch tokens that have such crazy volume and that are in a pump that I'm earning 30, 40, 50% in a matter of 20, 30 minutes or an hour sometimes. And so it can be pretty crazy to see those fees print essentially. So, but yeah, so that's one example of what we were doing and kind of how I would get out. The same way I got out is how I'd get in. And so I kind of watched the chart and you can see I've drawn these lines. You can see this is kind of where the token was ranging. And so what I do is I watch for it. I wait for it to ping off the bottom. And then as it's coming back up is where I buy in at. So that way I'm near the middle of the range. And then I'm kind of watching it to see, is it going to break out? Will I sell up here or is it going to break down? And I'll let it range in there for a while and just collect fees along the way. And as soon as I think it's going to break out below, then I sell and get out. Sometimes I'll take a small loss, or sometimes if I've earned enough fees, then I'll get out and just break even or even make a little bit. And if it breaks out above, then I sell and I've made money along the way and I've made money off of the token pumping. And so that's kind of how I do it.
Awesome. Now, is there anyone that you want to do live? And you may not. There might not be anything on your radar.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see. Let me see. Yeah, if I can do like a new one. A new one live. Let me get out of some of these. Let me see if anybody in the Discord has posted any. Are there any that y'all guys are looking at? Let's see. And so there's a Discover channel where they post, and there's a bot that'll post about them. So like, I'm not going to get into this one, but just for example, someone posted this one. So this will be a good example of what I look at, and I'll go ahead and say, okay, let me look at this token. It's called AMS. I think this is the right one. Let's see. Oh no, this isn't the right one. So I'll need to copy the.
Did you prefer Bird Eye over Dex Screener because?
So I don't necessarily prefer it. I do prefer it. I use it, but I don't think it's necessarily better. It's just what I've used for a long time. And also Dex Screener with my VPN oftentimes gives me a lot of trouble. And so in the middle of like needing to refresh and do some different stuff, I don't want it to not work. And I use VPNs and sometimes it messes with it. And Bird Eye doesn't give me that. So I just like the consistency of that. So that's the main reason. But Dex Screener is great as well. So this was a token that was posted earlier. Obviously, I would come to it. I'd look. It's dying. It's dead. The volume's nowhere, right? And so I'd say, okay, I'm not going to do this. And I would get out. But I'll go through and look at a few different ones before deciding. So let me see if I can find another one.
And now what about now? I mean, these we don't want to shill anything. You might be able to see it on your screen here.
Yeah.
Trench, Maneki, both. I mean, Trench, I don't know what it is. Like whatever kind of a high.
Oh, cap. I see people are posting them. Yeah. So let's see.
Maneki is obviously like touching $1 billion. So you'll probably never go and
Yeah.
jump in there.
Yeah, and so another thing to look at with those, right, is like you can come to the pools on Meteor and just look it up. And so this is how I would tell you that I wouldn't do it. I don't base it off of market cap. I just base it off of what it's earning. And so you can see here, like Maneki is a very popular coin, and you can see it does almost nothing, right? The amount of money that it's earning is very, very low on the fees. And so there's just not enough volume, daily volume. People buy it and it goes up or down or whatever. It may be a good token to hold long term. But as far as DLM, I mean, just because something's good to hold, because it may go up over time, like a Jupe or a whatever Giga lock-in, whatever it is nowadays. But those may not be good DLMM coins, and so I can see that here. There's just not any good options. They're not earning much, and so I wouldn't even need to look up that token. What was the other one? Trench.
But I mean, so we're in the trenches. You've probably heard of it.
Yeah. Is it trenches or trench?
I'll just put it here.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Trench.
Is there a CA that I can look at? Because is it Trench Rat?
I don't know.
Let's take a look at this one. Yeah, this might be it because it's got. I don't know if this one's it or not. Yeah, people can post like the CA, the token ID. No, yeah. That's not it.
I'll ask if he doesn't, if they, in case there's the one girl watching this, if they want to let me know what it is, cool.
Yeah, let me pull up.
Otherwise, we won't worry.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, I actually don't have it pulled up on Twitter, which I'm not sure why. Let's see.
So, just to kind of recap again, you get something from fee printers or looking yourself. You're looking to see if it's maybe can just get enough interest. You're not too greedy. You're after like maybe 20, 30%, but you'll take 8% if
Correct.
it's, and you check out the volume. You're after a specific, you want over $500,000 in volume in the last 30 minutes.
And yeah, the bare minimum. Yeah. And really, if it's a larger cap coin, like it's 50 million, 100 million, something like that, really, I want to see 1 million to 2 million volume on the 30-minute. But if it's a lower cap coin, 3 million to 15 maybe on the market cap, then I'd be okay with 500K. But yeah, that's kind of the bare minimum. But usually if it's a larger cap coin, you want to see more than 500K. Otherwise, you just won't earn enough fees whenever you go to look at Meteora.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. I'm just going to answer a couple of people here.
Yeah.
Felix, we're not going to cover Felix because it's an old token and I've covered it before and it's not doing well. I mean, you can have a look at Felix if you want. We're not going to check anything on Polygon because it doesn't work with a DLMM on Meteora. And as far as I'm aware, no one has any tech like this other than just Meteora and Solana, right? There's nothing like this on any other blockchain.
Not that I know of, not like this.
Gotcha. Well, then we've got another useful question, and keep them coming. What strategy do you use? Bid and ask, spot? What's your kind of range you play with?
Yeah, so there's different strategies. So like if we go to make a pool for Sol USDC here, and you go to your positions, add liquidity. You'll add in your Sol that you want to add, and then autofill the USDC here. And so you can see there's 3 different strategies you can choose from on Meteora. And so you have spot, curve, and bid ask. And this tells you kind of the idea here, right? So spot says it provides a uniform distribution that is versatile and risk adjusted, suitable for any type of market and condition. So this to me is like a solid strategy to be able to earn a good amount of fees, but also not get burnt because of a token being too volatile or it being not volatile enough. And I'll explain that with the next 2. And so the other 2 are more specific situation. And so like curve, you can see here, it does the curve. And the idea is that this is ideal for a concentrated approach. So right now, I'm pretty sure grass, if we look at the grass chart, it may be different now, but earlier it was holding a very, very tight range, meaning the price was not moving very far at all. And so something like a curve strategy may be good for, it may be good for a chart that looks like this. And so I don't know why it's making me zoom out zoom in like this, but
So
here we go.
I was DLMing this, and it just kept on going out of range, and then I just gave up and I put into Hawkeye. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have your strategy until now, so
Yeah. And so
maybe I missed
obviously
it.
it's dipped down now, but you can see I actually had lines drawn earlier. And so it was between this range for a long time, right? I mean, for most of the day, it was within a pretty tight range. And so in that instance, maybe you would do curve because it may only move right up in here. And basically what it means to have your liquidity concentrated. Liquidity just means your money, your SOL, your USDC, whatever that is, right? Your grass, whatever the token is. And basically these are little bins, right? And so what's happening is when you put your money in, it's being split between each of these bins. And these bins are basically just representing a space in the price. And so as the price goes down, it'll move through these bins. And as the price goes up, it'll move through these bins. And so what it means to have this little pyramid shape for the curve is that most of your liquidity is going to be here in the middle. And then the further away it gets, the less. So if a token's staying in the middle here, this is a good strategy. Bid ask is the opposite. There's sometimes where tokens you'll get in and they're just constantly pinging, going up and down and up and down. And they don't do a whole lot of staying near that initial price you entered. And that's where a bid ask strategy could be really good. But I stick to, and I would say anybody who's starting should just stick with spot. A spot strategy is giving you an equal amount distribution across. I earn tons of fees off of using a spot strategy. We're already trading digital meme coins. We're already concentrating our liquidity in small amounts. In my opinion, this is plenty good. You don't need to try to ink out even more profit from a curve or a bid ask because you can end up getting burnt. And so I use spot pretty much for everything.
Gotcha. And do you mind quickly explaining what bin percentages are? Like 50 bin, 200 bin, I see 400, and what bin do you normally like to use?
It completely depends. So a smaller bin step means that you're going to have more money concentrated across them, right? So you can imagine if I have $1,000 and 20 bins, then I'm going to have that 1,000 spread across 20. Whereas if I have 100 bins, then that $1,000 is going to be spread across 100. So as the price of the token moves up and down, if I have 100 bins, it means I'm going to move through at a slower rate in my pool as it goes up and down, which means I'll earn less money, but it'll also mean that if the token dumps, that I won't get burned as hard because I'm not buying up as much because it's spread out more. Whereas if I have 20 bins, it's all put into a small amount. And as the price moves up and down, it may only drop a little bit in price. And all of a sudden you'll see multiple of those bins get eaten up because it's so tightly in the middle. Now, a smaller bin step also means you'll earn more because it's more concentrated. And then the fee really depends as well. This is a much deeper thing that I could get into with fee and dynamic fee and stuff like that. But usually if you're doing, there'll be multiple options. So it really depends. But basically with fees, people pay fees. Whenever you buy or sell a token, people pay fees, right? And so they are basically paying the fee that you put in here. So the lower the fee, the more hits you'll get, but you'll also be charging less for transferring or trading the money for the pool. So when someone buys Solana with USDC or vice versa, they're going to go through a liquidity pool. And so if you're only charging a small amount, you'll catch most of the people who are trading. They're gonna end up trading and go through your pool, but you're earning less. And so if you have a higher fee, then less people will buy through your pool, but you'll make more when you do. And so this is the way that I look at it. There's a lot of different options. Usually I'll test out a few different ones. And so like 100 bin step, normally you'll see somewhere on meme coins, somewhere around 1 or 2% on meme coins. If you have a 200 bin step, you'll probably see something similar. But if you have like a 20 or a 40 bin step, a lot of times you'll see this where it's like 0.2, 0.4, things like that on the fee because it's tighter range and it's hitting more often because it's lower on the fees. But essentially, this is how I look at it is if I'm choosing a coin that's a lower cap meme coin, then I usually have a higher bin step because it'll reduce my risk. And usually newer coins are much more volatile and fluctuate a lot. And so by spreading it out, I'm going to capture more of that as it's really volatile. Whereas on a higher in coin, higher market cap coin, I may have a lower bin step as low as like 20, but maybe 50, maybe 80, something like that, because it's not going to move as much. And I want it to be a little tighter to try to earn more fees, because the higher market cap ones usually aren't earning as much fees as the lower cap ones. And so that can kind of help me be more efficient there, if that makes sense.
Right. Now, a couple more questions just to go through and then continue on.
Yeah, no problem.
Obviously, these, GOAT was a success, and I wasn't expecting the copycats to do well, but they have. They're coming out and they're doing well. Do you stay away from them? Do you jump on them? You mentioned you were attracted to Pop Goat, which I imagine was a copy pasta.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, Pop Goat specifically isn't one that I'm like excited for long term or anything. It's definitely just one that had a lot of volume. It was lower cap, which means that I can earn a lot of fees because it's lower cap and higher volume, and not as many people are putting liquidity in it. So it's higher risk, but it's more room to earn fees. And it had enough stability. It had been out for 2 days or a day and a half, and it hadn't rugged yet, right? So that was a good sign. Normally on lower caps, it's nice whenever they've already been out for a day or 2 days, because usually the rug happens within a few hours. So it kind of depends, but that's the gist of it for like a small cap. You also have derivatives or ones that kind of come off or follow the main one, like Fart Coin, for instance, which I actually made a video about, because when I saw this coin, I didn't know the narrative behind it. And I thought, this is ridiculous that someone would make this coin. And it was doing insane volume when it first came out. I was like, why is this thing being traded? And so I actually didn't look into the narrative that much. I just saw like someone had posted about it. Someone was talking about it in the Discord, but it was doing crazy volume, and it had a medium market cap of like 6 to 8. Well, it's just still small, but 6 to 8 million. So I got into it, made a bunch of money off of it, and got out, because in my mind, I'm like, this coin isn't going to last. I don't want to stay in it very long. I'll just make my money. Well, come to find out, I looked into it more. It was connected to GOAT and the Truth Terminal thing. And now it's doing really well, right? It's come down a little bit, but it's still at 30 million market cap.
Bachelor Society, who you might, if you've got a second screen, you might see.
Yeah.
He keeps on pinging it. He pinged it, I think, on like under 10 mil. And I was like, well, I think it's kind of funny, but I kind of thought, yeah, people have a little laugh.
Yeah.
And then they'll get over it. But I didn't understand that it was connected to the Truth Terminal either.
Mm-hmm.
But did Truth Terminal actually create it, or did they just mention it would be funny if there was a fart coin?
Yeah, they basically they named their, what was it? He named something, Truth Terminal did, a part of like him, like not his data, maybe his data processing or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but he basically, the guy, whatever, Truth Terminal, or the guy who's prompting it, whatever we want to say, was like asked about what he wanted his processing or his storage or something like that to be called. He said, like, if you had to name it a coin, what would you call it? And he said fart coin. And I guess maybe it's because of like he processes things. So he's like pooping. So it's like fart coin, I think, is the idea. I don't really know. But anyway, Truth Terminal said it. And so then it became big. So anyway, but that's the type of thing, right? Like that's what we're in. But either way, whatever the narrative is, finding something that's connected to something usually does well. But it usually will drop as well before the other thing. So I'm much more cautious, especially after the third and the fourth and the fifth alternative or coin that's like kind of connected to it comes out. Definitely more cautious about that. Whereas maybe the one that's right behind it is actually good to get into, because many times it'll follow what the other one's doing. And so you can kind of watch and see what the other one's doing and then pick up off of that for the one that's kind of following it. And so, yeah, I'm cautious about it. I look at, kind of what it's doing. But I would say there's not really like a rhyme or reason to it. More so just I'm more cautious the more alternatives there are. But we trade those all the time. So.
All right. Now, what about what's your best win?
Ooh,
yeah,
I mean, I've made some pretty big ones. I think like 50 to 60% ROI on a token is definitely the most. So I can actually, it depends on which wallet we're talking about. Definitely my Mateys pooled wallet that I have here is the highest, but I can actually come over here to fees, and I can on Metlex, and I can put my wallet in. And it'll actually go through every transaction, starting with like all the pools and how much money I've made. And you can see in the very top right, it says your rewards. And it'll go through kind of the basic Sol USDC pools. Then it'll go through and do, the GOAT pools, the Mudang pools. It'll go through and do all of them. And so you can actually see like some of the biggest wins here. I think one of my biggest ones, I ended up making around $7,000 or $8,000, and I only had like, 15,000 in it. And so it ended up being like 50 or 60%, which is pretty massive to go from, 15,000 to like 21,000, like, in a matter of like some of those pools, like Mudang, I held for like a full day or even 2 days because it was just so consistently ranging. So you can see here, Mudang, this one's 6,800.
Wow.
We can actually, I had two Mudangs here. One was 4,300. Mudang was a really big cook for us and fee printers. Like a bunch of people made a lot of money off of that whenever it was going up. We caught it pretty early, like in like the 4 to 8 million range. I think some people caught it earlier than others. This just brings me to the pool. Oh yeah, you can see here 6,800 on that one. Oh wait, where am I? Metlex. Yeah, so we would just have to wait. This takes a long time, but this number will become over 100,000, which is another thing to talk about. I would do everything I'm doing on Meteora, whether there was an airdrop or not, but I'm also farming an airdrop. And because this is kind of a medium to advanced, as far as like being able to earn a lot of fees, if you're able to do it, I think this is actually going to be a really big airdrop because there's only so many people that can do this consistently and not get, not lose money, but actually make money to do it long term and to be able to farm the fees along the way. And so the fact that I've been able to farm this much, I think, is going to be really beneficial for the airdrop. I think it's basically free money because I'm doing this to earn money anyway. So we don't have to watch this. Maybe we'll come back to it in just a little bit, but.
I definitely agree. I mean, I went with something a little bit too crazy. So once again, you're the expert. I was like, if you could try and make, I think I said 100,000, or I think I said 100, or I may have even been a little bit silly and said 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
If you could make like 100,000 or 1 million in fees, even if you literally made no profit, I think that
Correct.
airdrop would be juicy. But
yeah.
You may have a little bit of extra information, as I try to cover so many things, and Meteora, I'm very, very keen on, but it's hard to keep it all. But Meteora at present, they don't take they don't create any revenue, right? There's no fee that they generate.
Correct. So that will change. I've joined some of the like community Discord conversations, and they're definitely talking about doing that soon. They've talked about doing somewhere between like 5 to 8% of like basically a fee on the fees that you earn.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't take any from the TVL, but if I earned $1,000, if they're taking 5% of that, then they're taking $50, right? Of the fees that you've earned. So they are looking at doing that. They wanted to start smaller and then basically move up from there if necessary. But yeah, right now they're not taking any fees right now.
So this is a good example of you just, I mean, maybe this is another tip of yours. Like you have a strategy. Mm-hmm. If you held the pool longer, you'd be up. But you're Correct. Just like, you know what? I made some money. It could break out, but it could have reversed. So
correct. Yeah. So it really depends on where I got in. So you might have heard this before. Like people, when they talk about trading, they'll say like where you buy is way more important than where you sell. And that's even more important with DLMing because so when it was reaching the top of this line, I was barely in profit. If you remember when I showed the Metlex graphic, I only made $50 from where I entered in at. So I exited almost the same place I entered. And so that means that whenever I got in near this line here. And when I got out near this line. And so it's tough because if I get in here and this token comes down, comes back up, and it comes to here, I'm at break even. So I can hold it to hope it goes longer. But if it starts to go down, I'm now in the negative on my TVL. Whereas if I would have gotten in when it was lower on one of these, when it bounces back up, then what would end up happening is once it gets to the top here, I feel more comfortable waiting to see if it's going to break out above or it's going to come back down, because even if it starts to come down, I can still close out and I'll be okay. And so that's one thing that I preach a lot, like in the Discord when I'm doing live streams or on Twitter, is that you want to make sure you get in at a good point. And so a lot of times I'm reading the charts, I'm watching for upward trends, downward trends, and then I wait for a downward trend to be broken, or we wait for a pullback in an upward trend before we get in so that we're in at a good time. Because if I would have gotten in down here, I could have waited, and then I would have been riding this thing the whole way up, and I would have sold at one point up here, and we would have made maybe 15 or 20%. Because in a pump, volume is increased. Like this right here, when you see these larger candles, volume is increased, which you can see down here on Bird Eye. So I would have been earning more fees, and I would have made a lot more on the overall TVL. So yeah, that's definitely something to look at. In my position where I wanted to get out. But if I would have been smarter in a better place entering, then I could have probably rode this up higher, which is what I try to do. But yeah, I just didn't this time. So
awesome. Let's go. Let's take a couple more questions if that's okay.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, CLMMs, I'm fairly familiar, but you're probably going to be even more familiar. I don't know if this was like a typo or if you meant DLMM or whatever, but why would, like in a sentence, why would you use a DLMM over, say, setting a CLMM in Radium, taking out of consideration the MET points?
Yeah, so if you take out of consideration the MET points, I would say like DLMM stands for dynamic. And so it's very similar, but the way they have their bins set up is a little bit different. And then also, let me look at Lucy actually, because Lucy has good volume right now. So we'll probably be able to see this. If you set up a pool, it just, whatever the fee is that you set up is the fee that it's going to be. If you set up a CLMM on like Radium or Orca or any of those, right? And you can concentrate the liquidity the same way that you would with this, but you can't, but the fees aren't dynamic. And so if you look over to the left over here, 100 bin step, we talked about what the bin step were. It has a base fee of 2% and a max fee of 10%. And you're like, well, why would it have a max of 10 if you're setting it at 2? Well, you can see down here, the dynamic fee is actually 3.68%. And so what ends up happening is in high volume situations, the fees will automatically go up on your pool. And so if you're in a 2% pool, your fee might go up to 3.5%, 4%. If you're in a 5% pool, it might go to 8 or 10%. There's even times where I've been in 2% pools that are dynamic fees are at 10% because they're just pumping so hard. And so it actually takes advantage of these high volume situations whereas like a normal CLMM won't do that. And so you're actually missing out on a lot of fees because of that, right? Because you're just getting a base fee amount that you're offering basically as people are buying and selling, whether they're in high volume or low volume. So that's one advantage of it. Also, these strategies that you're setting up here, I think with the DLMM on Meteora, it's just taken what the CLMMs have already done in the past and just they've given more options. There's more versatility in how you can set your strategies and curves and stuff like that. And so I think overall, it's just slightly better as far as having more flexibility, but also to be able to earn more off of like the dynamic fees and stuff like that. So I think it's more efficient as well with the way that they do the bin steps.
Brilliant. Got another question for you, sir. What are your tips for one-sided pools in a bid and ask? Do you ever use that?
Yeah. So like basically if we look at Lucy here, which is absolutely ripping, this is like such a great example of like, if you hold, you know what I mean? Like this thing is ripping. And so the volume is also pretty crazy on this right now.
I guess one thing we could have said here is like, are you ever tempted to just remove 80%?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of times what I'll do is if I think it's actually going to break out and I've earned a decent amount of fees, I'll just close out the pool, but I won't sell the token. I'll actually hold the token and wait and kind of watch it go up. So I've earned fees off of it kind of sitting in within these ranges. And then when it breaks out, it gives me signals that it's going to keep breaking out like this, just monstrous candles. I'm like in pain right now because I'm like, this is money we missed out on. But
maybe this is pumping because we're streaming. I mean,
maybe
we're not that famous.
Yeah, but you never know. They're like trying to get me to get in, you know, and they're gonna farm me. But no, it's what were we talking about?
I'll put it back on the screen. Can you see this question?
Yeah.
What are your tips for one-sided pool in a bid and ask?
Right. So, so I came over here to be able to look at it. So basically, let's say this coin's pumping and you're like, I want to get into this coin, but I don't want to buy it at the top. This is a great example of when you could use a one-sided. Now, I don't often do this, but sometimes I will. And so what you'll do is maybe you say, okay, it's dipping here, but I'm not comfortable getting in anywhere above this. And so I'll get in below this, but not above it. And so what you would do is you would come over here, you would take off the autofill, and you'd say, I'm going to put in 5 Sol. Is this, oh, this is a Sol Lucy pool. I need to be Lucy Sol. Let's do this one. Yeah. Okay. This just matters with the orientation. So I'm going to put in 10 Solana. Autofill is off. And so you can see it only fills half of this. The other half isn't there. So if the price goes up, you're not doing anything. You're not gaining any fees, but you're also not selling any Lucy. This is a one-sided pool. You're only putting Solana in it. And so what happens is as Lucy dips, you can see, you'll actually see this live. You'll see there was a bin here, one of these bars, it just disappeared. And so that's because this is dipping. And as it dips, what will end up happening is you'll actually start buying the token as it comes into your range, and you'll earn fees along the way because people are using your Solana that you've provided to make those trades. See, another bin just left because it's dipping. This would have been a great example for me to set this up if I wanted to get into it. And then at some point, maybe it gets down halfway and you think, okay, this is as far as I want it to go. You can get out and sell it. Or you can even say, okay, I'm ready to now set up a two-sided pool. I feel like it's in a good range. You'll close out of the pool. You'll now have Lucy because you bought some, and then you can sell it. This is also a great way to just DCA in and out of a coin, dollar cost average, right? So maybe you're like, I don't feel comfortable waiting for it to make these big jumps before I buy and sell. I just want to sell a little bit on the way up or buy a little bit on the way down. That's essentially what you're doing. And so this is a great example of how you could use a one-sided pool. And of course, if it ends up pumping out of range, well, you're not out of anything. Like if this pumps all the way up, you'll still have your 10 Sol. You maybe have earned some fees because it dipped down and came up, and then you can just close it out. Now, of course, if it dips way down, the risk side would be if it dipped really, really hard and it basically, you bought it the whole way, but then it keeps dipping and it gets out of your range. Well, now you've bought higher and the value of the token is lower. And so we call that impermanent loss. You would now have a lower amount of money left than than before whenever you started, right. If that makes sense. And you won't have any Sol anymore. You'll basically be buying Lucy on the way down. And if it gets out of range, you'll just have a big bag of Lucy. Of course, maybe that's what you wanted. And now you just hold it and wait for it to come back up and then sell it again, right? So there's a lot of different strategies, but that's the gist of why you would use a one-sided pool. Now, you showed that with Spot, but would you use bid ask to try and, or do you just like Spot? Yeah, so bid ask could actually be good for this because as you can see, there's like some pretty big candles that we see like wicking way down and then coming way back up. And so in this instance, bid ask could be good. So this essentially makes it to where most of your liquidity is towards the end of the range. And so maybe as it's pumping down here, you're expecting it to go way to the end of your range. You expect it to dump a lot. And in that case, this is kind of waiting for it to get to the end before it buys more. And maybe it's pumping way down before coming back up and then pumping way down. In that instance, bid ask may be better because with a bid ask, if the token only dumps a little bit, then you're not really making a lot because there's not a lot of Solana that you have in these early bins. It's not until later. And so same thing with Curve. It's the opposite of that. If you only expect it to dip a little bit and then come back up, kind of like what it's doing right now, maybe, then you could do this pool as well. But just know, like, you're going to buy most of the token just in this spot right here, not down there. And so I would say Spot, if you're looking for something that's dumping and you're wanting to buy in as it comes down, I would say Spot or bid ask is probably your best option. I probably wouldn't do Curve. You get hit harder with impermanent loss on Curve, right? Because you may buy a bunch right here. And then once it's out of range, most of it was bought here, not in the middle or further down, which is the opposite of this, right? You're buying less here, but then once it gets further, you're here. So this actually would be better to reduce impermanent loss even more so than Curve or Spot. And Spot's kind of the middle one. So. Gotcha. And now, so sorry, back to Meteora for a sec. So this question here. So once you're actually buying that Lucy, it will be traded with, right? Correct. Yeah. So it basically becomes a two-sided pool once it's down here. Now, once it breaks back above, it won't be anymore. But yeah, essentially once it's in here, you're using both the Lucy that you've already bought and the Solana that's left over. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right. We've got another question. Yeah. And for everyone watching, we're going to cap this at an hour. So we have 10 minutes left. Get all your questions in. And really, we all very much appreciate you taking the time to teach us your ways. Yeah. And after this question, I want to find out what your schedule is for live streaming so that people can For sure.
ping you a million questions on their time.
Sounds good.
Is it possible to put some stop losses while doing DLMM on Meteora to prevent heavy dump? The answer is a very easy one, only with Hawkfire at the moment,
Correct.
as far as I know. Just confirming that's correct.
Yep. Yeah, there's some other like private bots or projects that are doing some stuff right now that I know about that are like, I don't think they've made like public yet. But the only really like well-polished, consistent one would be Hawkfire. Yeah. And so Hawkfire will actually allow you to put a stop loss and a
take profit.
Thank you. Take profit as well. And it'll actually swap the token to Solana as well. So like if you're going to be gone for a few days, let's say, and you put it in there and you're like, all right, I'm going to be gone. If it goes below 10%, then I just want it to close out, and any of the token I have left, I'm afraid it could go lower. So I just want it to transfer to Sol. They'll do that. And then on the high side as well, maybe you want it to close out at 15 or 20% profit, but then you're like, but I don't want to hold on to the token that's left over that I've now earned off of fees because it could dump later. I want to capitalize on that profit. Then it'll transfer it into Sol for you. And so it'll do the stop loss and the take profit, and it'll transfer into Sol, which they didn't always have that, but I think they got feedback on that being important, and they have that now. So it's got a lot of other great features. I don't use it that often, or I haven't really used it at all because I do watch it so closely, but I do think that it's a great product, and I plan to use it more as I'm wanting to kind of be more like if I'm gone over the weekend, or like I'm actually going on vacation on the 3rd of November. And so I'll be gone. So I'll probably set up some Hawkfire stuff to be able to capitalize off of that.
Cool. And anyone that's watching, Hawkfire does take 8% of your rewards.
Correct. Yeah, the fees. Yeah.
But I mean, I've used both, and I'm more kind of used to Hawkfire because you can auto compound it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wasn't doing like as much content, then I would just try and do what TokenGuy is doing, and just do it more on Meteora. But I like Hawkfire as well.
Yeah, they're great.
Now, so can you also mention why? I understand why, but for anyone new, why do you take your liquidity positions out on, say, Friday evening and then change it to Sol and USDC for the weekend?
Yeah, so I mean, one is that I'm just less active, and so if there is, y'all know the way the crypto market is, it can drastically change. The meta could be super high on AI or on whatever it is, and then the next day it could be completely down. And so I don't want to leave something up. And I don't have as much time on the weekends. I like to take that time off. I like to spend time with family. I go do stuff. And I've tried to do it before where I do some pulls and I'll just check it on my phone here and there. But what ends up happening is I create a pull and it ends up pumping and I'm gone. And then I don't check it until it's all the way down. And I'm like, dang, I just missed an opportunity. And it just seems like I was always kind of missing it. And so I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. I took too many losses trying to do that over the weekend. And so I'm like, let's just do Sol USDC, right? Because for me, even if Solana dumps, that's okay. Because every other token, I pretty much considered it in permanent loss if it goes down. With Solana, I don't, because I'm holding Solana long-term anyway. And so for me, if I end up buying it on the way down and it goes lower, hey, that's fine. I've just bought Sol at a better price because I believe it's going to go up later anyway. So for me, that's kind of how I view it. And I'm earning fees along the way also. And so that's why I do the Sol USDC. One, I'm not able to watch it. And two, Sol USDC is just something I'm not worried about whether it goes up or down. I'll just, whatever happens at the end. And I'll usually still check it either once a day or something like that, just if I need to auto adjust it and things, or not auto adjust, if I need to manually adjust it.
Gotcha. This is another good question. Because I thought I would do okay with grass, but I didn't. It's now in Hawkfire. I don't know what it's doing. I'm pretty sure it's down. I can check it on Metlex. How to properly set up something, for example, selling grass on token generation event using DLMM if the pool is already created by someone.
How to properly set up something like, for example, selling grass on TG using DLMM if pool is already created. Yeah, so the pools are public. So like you can create a new pool right here. And so I can go to, whatever Blaze and Solana, and I can create it. I can set up a fee and I can set up a bin step. Now, if it's already created, you can't create one. And so it'll just tell you like, hey, there's already one that's doing that. And so Yeah, it'll tell you, but you can create a pool here. It costs like 0.035 Sol, which honestly right now is like $5. So it may not be worth it if you're using a small amount of money, but for me, it's not a big deal.
0.035 Sol.
Yeah, and they're not making any money on it. It's just that's how much it costs to be able to create the account, to be able to create a new pool.
Was it a lot more initially? Because I thought it was like, I did one by mistake in a tutorial and it cost me like almost 1 Sol.
Oh, yeah, I'm not I'm not sure about that. But you can see, like, if I go to create, oh wait, actually y'all won't be able to see my wallet, right?
As long as you can confirm what it costs.
Yeah, let me see what it says. It's loading. This says 0.04. So it may be different, depending. Okay. I'm not sure what changes it, but most of the time it's like 0.03 something, but right now it says 0.042. So it depends on the token account. It might depend even on like the setup or even like the price. I'm not exactly sure, but either way, you can create one here. Now, if you're just using somebody else's, I'll just give you an example. Let's use Grass. So you got the airdrop. You would come down here and you would look at show all, and it'll show you all the pools. Okay. And so there's 50 bin, 400 bin, right? But you want to say, maybe you say, okay, the token really hasn't moved a ton, right? Like it's staying within a tight range. And so I just want to sell it pretty much like as quickly as I can, but I want to sell it like on the way up or whatever. So I'll do a tighter range. I'll do a 50 bin step. And you'll come in here and you'll basically just say, I want to add liquidity, and you'll put in your, 500 grass that you got airdropped, which if you got that, congratulations. I only got 120. But
I had like 417 and like hundreds of referrals. It wasn't lucrative.
Yeah, it was not. So 500 here. And then what you would do is you would just set up the one-sided pool, the opposite of what we did for Solana, right? So you don't autofill, you just do the 500, and you can see it'll only do the upside. So as the price of grass goes up, it'll sell it along the way. And once it's out of this, it's done. But it'll probably move around in this for a little while, and you'll collect fees along the way. And if you wanted to, at some point, if you wanted to close it out while it's like halfway through, you could. And you'll have some grass left over, but you'll also have Sol because you've been selling it. And then maybe you'll just go ahead and just say, I'm just going to sell the rest of it. I'm not worried about waiting for it to get all the way out. And you could do that. But this is how you would DCA out, which is dollar cost average, which basically just means you're not wanting to risk the chance of like it getting all the way here. You'd rather just sell it on the way. And so you're dollar cost averaging out of the token and into Solana. So that's how you would do that.
And now, of course, like the price could just tank, and then if it doesn't come back, then
Correct.
It's like W token. It was, pre-market trading $2, and then it's like 80 cents a few days later.
Cool. Yeah, exactly. So you could also get hurt on that, right? Like if you just sold it where it's at, it might end up being better if it only goes down from where it's at now. So that's something to consider. A choice that you have to make for sure. So
amazing. All right, well, we're almost at time. So I think a good actionable is any chance you can jump on Twitter and just show the fee printers Twitter, just because.
I also posted it in the chat as well,
so that people can find that Discord and go and join it. And then the second thing I want to ask, once this is loaded for us, is how often will you be streaming and at what time? Or is it just random?
So I would say it's like slightly random, but it's not like it's around the same time. So I would say if you're in the US, it's probably around 11 or 11:30 EST. And so if you're in Europe or somewhere else that uses like UTC, that would be around like 4 to 5 p.m. UTC, or maybe, like 3:30 to 4 UTC kind of time period is when I'm on. So it just kind of depends. I don't have an exact schedule. I might get to where I do that more. But as of right now, I need a little bit of flexibility with that. And so, that's around whenever I get on. So, but yeah, this is the Discord. I mean, this is the Twitter. It's just at FEE printers, which is just print ORS. And there's a Discord there. I also put the link
You're not even following them. What is this?
Oh, wow. I'm not even following. That's hilarious. Yeah, I don't know how I wasn't. I expected myself to be. But anyway, I'm following them now. And I do live streams. I started doing them in the Discord. And then we moved to Twitter just to be able to bring in more people. to what we're doing. And so sometimes, like I did a call earlier today. I didn't do it on Twitter, but I just got in the Discord and we had like 30 people, and we were talking because of the grass drop. We were all talking about that and getting in on that. So if you're interested, come join us. It's a great community. You can learn a lot. Yeah.
Awesome. And then last 20 seconds. What about this NFT? They're creating an NFT.
Yeah. So
it's
already minted. The whole idea of the NFT, the community is staying the same. So the NFT isn't like locking channels or being exclusive or anything like that to where it's like you're missing out on a ton. I mean, there are some special things that I think Mint's going to be doing, the owner of Fee Printers, but it just finished minting out like this past week. There's only like 333 of them. And the goal is really just that people are pulling their money together so that if you don't feel as confident, Mint, who manages all that, he's the one who will be managing it and earning it. And so if you have one of those NFTs, then you can earn off of that. I think they're doing like 50% of the revenue generated, they'll pay out monthly, and then like 40% will get reinvested. And then like 5 to 10% will be for paying him and the team to be able to run the Discord and do everything that they do. So, but yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for coming on. Do you have any closing bit of alpha or like your best piece of advice you could give someone maybe on this topic? And then we'll end it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get into Lucy right here. And so I'm getting back into Lucy, even though it's now gone up a lot, but I can explain that real quick.
Sure.
I don't know if you want to share the screen again. So basically what happened was it went to an all-time high. It dipped down. It pinged off of the support that I had, and then it's on its way back up. I actually bought it just now, like a little bit lower. It's pumping way more than I expected. But the idea was that I got it as it came above these previous highs right here, kind of middle of this range. And that's where I decided to get in at. And so I'm now going to go back over to Lucy after I just bought some Lucy, and I'm going to create a pool. And so we're going to go into
I'm going to come dilute you, if that's okay.
yeah, of course. I'm going to come into the 100 bin step 2%, which it's actually Soul Lucy. It's supposed to be Lucy Soul, but they messed it up. And it's fine, though, whoever created this. Oh, it looks like I didn't buy the Lucy. What? It did not go through. Oh, that makes me sad. Okay. We'll still get in right here. It's not ideal, but I could also DCA in, like I explained earlier.
Why don't you just swap on the little dupe widget on Meteora?
Oh yeah, I could do that. Yeah.
Does it work as well? Oh.
No, it does. It does. I could do that. I forgot about that as well. So I could also do like a one-sided pool to buy in as it comes back down. That's another good idea here that you could do. I think I'll just buy it though. Let's see if I can. And I'm buying 20 Soul worth. See if it'll let it go through here.
Question is, why does direction matter? I can answer it if you need to, if you can't multitask on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
But you're wanting it to come back into, you want to buy in the middle of your range. You don't want to buy at the top of your range, the bottom or the middle of your range, so that you've got more upside. Right?
Correct. Or if it dips, you're not getting out of range also, right? Because like I'm okay if it dips. It could actually dip down pretty far. Like it can dip down to here. And I'm okay with that because I'm earning fees the whole way, right? Now, if it goes too low or it shows like a continual downtrend, then I might get out. But if it's just dipping down here to come back up and it kind of is staying within this range, like I'm perfectly fine with that because I'm earning fees, and I'll just wait till it comes back up to sell again. And if it like this may not be a good time, right? Like I think it is, and so I'm getting back into it. But if it's not, then that's okay, and I'll just take a small loss and move on, right? So I try to mitigate my losses as best as possible. And I try to capitalize on my wins, right? But I think that it looks like it's ranging well, and that it could be pushing towards the top of its range, which it'll either break out or it'll just ping off the resistance and come back down, which is totally fine as well. Again, we'll just kind of hold it as it shifts around. So I do need to hop off, but yeah, hopefully y'all are successful off of Lucy. We'll see what it does. And I really appreciate coming on, Seb. It's been a lot of fun, and hopefully it was informative. And if people are interested in this or interested in other type of stuff like this, I'd be happy to maybe come on again. Who knows?
Yeah, brilliant. I'm sure they'll ask for you back. Thanks so much for coming on, and I'll put all the details below so that you can follow TokenGuy and then join his live streams. Thanks again.
Sounds
Cheers.
good. Thanks. Have a good one.
Bye.